Welcome back, everyone, to the HockeyNorth Podcast. I'm your host today, Tyler Kroom, joined here with my good friend, Brendan Pawliw, sporting the HockeyNorth hat there. Brendan, how are you doing today?
Good. It was a busy weekend of hockey for all of us. More importantly, how are you doing?
You know what? I had to take the day to decompress a little bit. It's been a busy weekend, lots of hockey going on between the Northern Capitals having their final regulation home weekend before they head into the playoffs here. And then the playoffs starting for the U17 AAA Cougars as they hosted Greater Vancouver, and intense 3 games. A very spirited matchup, and the emotions were running high. Lots of game-breaking plays both ways, and you know what? I think a lot of stuff to be happy about if you're a Caribou Cougars fan after this weekend.
Yeah, that was a heck of a series. I called all 3 games, as you know, and just that entire third game just encapsulated that entire series. And it's too bad one team had to lose, but luckily the team that came out on top was the Caribou Cougars.
Absolutely. And the turnout at all 3 games was really, really good. And something special here for the boys. It's been a while since coming back, having a full regular season without any stipulations with COVID and stuff. And, definitely something that you could see meant a lot to the team out there.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And yeah, I guess from here, it's a great way to segue into our update for our Northern athletes from around the junior ranks. Take it away, Brendan.
First off, in the Western Hockey League, Carson Golder of the Kelowna Rockets, the Smithers product, now up to 28 goals on the year. He had a hat trick against the Spokane Chiefs on March the 1st and a victory against the Chiefs. He was held pointless in a home-and-home against the Kamloops Blazers, but the Smithers product doing quite well since coming over from the Edmonton Oil Kings. Miguel Marquez of Prince George of the Lethbridge Hurricanes, 16 points in 53 games. He's been held in check lately, pointless in his last 5, including a pair of road games against the Prince Albert Raiders and the Saskatoon Blades. Hurricanes splitting a pair in those Saskatchewan road games. His teammate, Hayden Smith of Chetwynd, up to 16 points on the year. 11 of those are goals. Hayden Smith last scoring on February 25th against the Calgary Hitmen. That was a road effort there, a road victory for Lethbridge. Caden Lindstrom, who will be on this podcast in a couple of weeks' time, the Chetwynd product, having a good year for the surging Medicine Hat Tigers. 36 points in 52 games this year for him. That included 2 helpers and an upset victory at home against the Winnipeg Ice, followed by another goal against the Edmonton Oil Kings. So congratulations, Caden, on your continued on-ice success. Terrell Goldsmith of the Prince Albert Raiders, the Fort St. James product, still stuck on 7 points in 51 games. He did have a helper on March the 4th against the Moose Jaw Warriors in a 5-3 defeat. Their Raiders currently outside of the playoff picture in the WHL's Eastern Conference. Turning to the Prince George Cougars now, Caden Brown of Fort St. John, as well as Prince George, 27 points in 57 games on the season for him. Of course, Cougars taking 3 of 4 points against the Spokane Chiefs over the weekend. Another Northern product on the Cougars is Fisher O'Brien of Prince George, 9 points in 45 games for him. He was also held off the score sheet in those 2 games. Leighton Feist of the Regina Pats, 16 points, 59 games played this year out of Dawson Creek. Not as many points this year for Feist in his 3rd WHL season, but still among the top 2 pairings for the Pats. Tanner Mollendijk of McBride, the Saskatoon Blades, perfect 3 for 3 weekend for them. Home wins against Lethbridge and Moose Jaw followed up against a 5-2 victory over the Regina Pats. Mollendijk last scoring in that game against Moose Jaw on March the 3rd. You take a look at his stat sheet, 32 points in 59 games for him. His teammate and Prince George product, Smith Redman, just 2 assists in 39 games for Smith, but the local product, part of that Blades team, which is 3rd in the Eastern Conference. Of course, Nico Majatovic of Prince George having a dream season with the loaded Thunderbirds, 50 points in 59 games, 25 goals, 25 helpers. Over the weekend, he had 2 goals and 1 assist against the Everett Silvertips, followed by another helper against the Tri-City Americans at home. Of course, Ethan Semenuk of the Vancouver Giants, 17-year-old, 22 points in 46 games for him. The Giants have won 3 in a row after taking their lumps late in the year. To the Junior A ranks in the Alberta Junior Hockey League, Hunter Brown of the Spruce Grove Saints, 37 points in 49 games. That includes a pair of helpers on March 1st and 4th against Fort McMurray, as well as Sherwood Park Crusaders. His teammate Brophy Dunn, 13 points in 45 games. He had a goal and a helper back on February 26th against Sherwood Park, but has been held pointless in his last 3 outings. Decker Moitchin of the Grand Prairie Storm, 12 points, 53 games this season. With the Grand Prairie Storm starting to come on, he scored against Lloydminster on March the 4th there in a pair of games down in the border city. To the SJHL, Alex Achitwa of the Nipawin Hawks, 32 points in 50 games this year for the Prince George product and former Caribou Cougar. Scored on March the 5th against the Melfort Mustangs, as well as a 3-point outing on March 1st on the road against the Melville Millionaires. Staying in Saskatchewan, Jackson Hassman, Achitwa's teammate with the Prince George, with the Caribou Cougars, 35 points in 49 games, 24 of those goals to go along with 134 penalty minutes. He had 2 assists in a game on March the 4th against the Kindersley Clippers. He's been on a tear offensively in terms of the goals department. You just count up the stat sheets here. He's had 10 goals over the past month or so. So he has been on fire for the Weyburn Red Wings. Dawson Smith of the Lagrange Ice Wolves, Whitehorse product, another former Caribou Cougar, 18-10, 0-2 on the year. 2.49 goals against average, .932 save percentage. Won his last start on March the 3rd against the Melfort Mustangs. To the BCHL now, plenty of northern products on the Prince George Spruce Kings. They split a weekend at home against the Vernon Vipers. 3-2 win was followed up by a 3-0 loss. John Harrington leading the way with 42 points on the year for the Spruce Kings. Lyndon Macau of the Vanderhoof, as well as the Spruce Kings, 25 points in 46 games. Scroll down the list even more. Scott Cousins, 8 points in 31 for him. And, of course, Jordan Fairley, one of our northern athletes, 38 games this year. Fairley has a record of 20-13-0, 2.91 goals against average to go with an 892 save percentage. Quinn Disher of the Cowichan Valley Capitals, former Trail Smoke Eater and Michigan Tech commit, 7 points in 15 games since being acquired by the Capitals via the Brooks Bandits. He last scored in a game against Nanaimo on March the 3rd. Diego Johnson of the Merritt Centennial, 16 points, 43 games. He had an assist at home and an upset win over the West Kelowna Warriors. Nathan Mackey, formerly of Prince George, the captain of the Salmon Arm Silverbacks, 26 goals, 21 assists on the year, point per game pace for him. He had a stellar weekend, 2 goals at home against the Trail Smoke Eaters, followed up by a 1-helper outing against Cranbrook. Of course, Aiden Reeves of the West Kelowna Warriors, 10 points, 42 games. He played on Friday, March the 3rd, no points against the Cranbrook Bucks. Canadian Sports School Hockey League, Chase Harrington of the Delta Hockey Academy, 37 points in 28 games, including a 3-point outing against the North Shore Warriors, 1 goal, 2 helpers, also had an assist on March the 3rd against the Burnaby Winter Club. Harrington, of course, one of 3 PG products, including Cameron Schmidt and Ryder Green, who participated in the Canada Winter Games down in Prince Edward Island. Speaking of Schmidt, 21 points in 14 games for the Rink Hockey Academy in Kelowna. Back-to-back goal efforts over the weekend for him. He's, of course, a top prospect of the Vancouver Giants. Prince George's Hunter Henry with the BWC's U17 prep squad, 11 points in 30 games. He had 1 goal on March the 4th. His teammate, fellow Prince George product Brett Peebles, 16 points in 29 games. He had a pair of helpers recently with Burnaby Winter Club, as well as a goal and a helper on March the 2nd. Ethan Hamilton of Prince George, 9 points in 21 games this year with the Okanagan Hockey Academy's U17 prep squad. His teammate Brody Martin, also of Prince George, he's got 9 points in 32 games, had one helper on March the 4th for him. And Riley Peterson of the Rink Hockey Academy's U16 prep team, the Smithers product, 21 points in 34 games. It was held off the score sheet over the course of the weekend. Junior B ranks Adam Bourgeois of the North Okanagan Knights, the Fort St. John product, and Caribou Cougar grad, 20 points in 26 games during the regular season. He's been on fire in the playoffs for NOK, 9 points in 7 playoff games so far for him as they've clinched to the second round of the KIJHL playoffs. Chase Pacheco of the Port Alberni Bombers, 46 points in 44 games, 2 goals in 3 playoff games for him. Pacheco eyeing a call-up at the end of the year for the Alberni Valley Bulldogs. And Sean Mead of Prince George of the Campbell River Storm, 5 points in 35 games, 1 goal in 3 playoff games for the Storm this year. And there you have it. That's our Northern Hockey Roundup here for the past couple of weeks that were, as we've been on a hiatus here over the past little while.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Brendan, for that update. And as always, really good to see our Northern athletes from the region doing well in their respective junior careers. And also really cool that a good bulk of them are here in our own backyard between the Spruce Kings and the Prince George Cougars, which is always good to see. With that, we're going to head into our Caribou Hockey Weekly update. We already kind of touched in a little bit there for the U17 AAA Caribou Cougars playoff round, but so we'll start off here with the Northern Capitals. They had their final home games at home this weekend, hosting the VI Seals, and very tightly contested games. On the Saturday night, they did lose that battle 2-1. A few heartbreaking moments in the end, as it was a 1-1 game for quite a ways in that game until near the final stages of that third period when VI did score to make it 2-1. And I think there was a missed open net opportunity there by the Caps, which a bit of a heartbreaker, but nothing to be too beat up about, as that was a very, very good game for the Capitals. And then heading into Sunday morning here as we record, the Northern Capitals did tie with the VI Seals 2-2, another tightly contested game. And it was also the last weekend for 3 of the Northern Capitals players, as they will be moving on to their respective college careers after this. Veteran Rachel Lowen, the captain for the team this year. We got veteran Cameron Ward from Kitimat, BC. She will be moving on. And then Prince George's very own Jessa Brewer as well. So congratulations to all 3 for their success through this program in the Northern Capitals. And we wish them the best of luck as they progress forward. And from there, we're going to head into the U17 AAA Caribou Cougars playoffs. They were hosting the Greater Vancouver Canadians, the Cougars being 3rd seed and the Canadians being the 6th. The Canadians came in on Friday night and won that game 2-0. On Saturday, the Caribou Cougars stormed back and won convincingly. And then a really tightly contested 5-3 victory for the Caribou Cougars here on Sunday to close it as a 2-1 series. Like we said, great turnout, a lot of support showing for the boys as they battled hard. And a shout out to our Caribou Hockey superfan and very loyal Hockey North listener, Marcus Malm, for bringing out the drum and getting everybody into it, cheering in the crowd. It was definitely noticed, and we look forward to seeing you at more games soon. That's it for our Caribou Hockey Weekly. Brendan, back to you.
Well, now we're going to go into our athlete interview for this week, and it's staying with the Northern Capitals and Staysha Hiebert of Cecil Lake, British Columbia. Staysha, of course, rock solid defender at both ends. Now in her 2nd season, of course, as I mentioned, and like a lot of the Northern Capital players, getting a lot of attention from scouts across Canada and in the United States. And she's this week's athlete interview. And without any further ado, here's my interview with Staysha Hiebert. Well, you always need experience on your blue line, and for the Northern Capitals, one of them on the blue line this year is Staysha Hiebert, 2nd-year player with the Capitals this year in the BC Elite Hockey League's U18 AAA Conference. She's with me now on the Hockey North podcast. Staysha, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, Staysha, it's a bit of a different year for your team, a lot younger, and maybe not quite as many weapons from a year ago. Just talk about how the season's going and how it's been a little bit harder to get some wins this year.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a learning curve for sure. Especially last year, I got pretty used to having a lot of those top older players, and then with them gone this year, definitely different. But I think we're doing really well at learning new systems, and our coaches are doing a great job. So it's been a learning curve, but nothing to complain about too much. So.
And of course, your team off for a little while here before playoffs do begin. You've had some big moments lately with a trip to Winnipeg for a tournament, followed by the Winter Classic up in Vanderhoof and Fort St. James. Just talk about those two experiences.
Yeah, I mean, those were pretty amazing experiences, that's for sure. Winnipeg was pretty cool. It's not something you do every year, that's for sure. It was pretty cold up there, but it was some good hockey, good to see different teams and such, and get that exposure. That was super great. And then with the Winter Classic, I mean, something all the teams that played in talk about. It's an awesome opportunity to be a part of. So that was pretty great.
You talk about the competition in Winnipeg. I would imagine too, it's also a chance to get showcased in front of some different eyes, like scouts and a lot of recruiters at the collegiate level, as well as along with playing against players that you've maybe heard of by name, but haven't really had the opportunity in playing against.
Yeah, that's for sure. There were tons of scouts there. It was really awesome to be able to play in front of them. And then, yeah, with players too, like we played against Calgary Fire, and they're just loaded with names that I've heard of even before I came to this team. So it was a great experience to be able to play against them.
And speaking of scouts and scholarships, there's actually been no shortage of Northern Capitals that have committed to the post-secondary level over the past several years. Brooklyn Hutchings, Carson Niven, just to name a few. Obviously, Ella Boone, all with Trinity Western. She hasn't committed yet, but Haley Armstrong probably will post-secondary at some point. Then you have Maria and Casey, who were with your team last couple of years. They'll be moving on collegiately. And then, there's Keegan Goulet, Brett Curley. I mean, there's been a lot of really good players that have come through this CAPS program that are receiving scholarships and are playing at that high level. So I guess, does that kind of give a player like yourself something to shoot for, knowing that, the players before you have kind of built that foundation?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's very inspirational seeing them get to that level and excel there. Something that I definitely want to do when I get there as well.
Yeah. Now, this is your second year in the team. As we mentioned earlier, you're from Cecil Lake, which is just outside of Fort St. John. Just talk about growing up in that neck of BC in the northeastern part, and how you first got into hockey.
Yeah, well, it's pretty rural up there outside of Fort St. John. Cecil Lake's a really small community. It's lots of snowmobiling and dirt biking in the summertime. And then that's where I grew up playing hockey, was in Cecil Lake in Clearview Arena. I went to a really small school called Clearview School, and the only building next to it was Clearview Arena. So it was a great community to be a part of, and I'm glad to still be a part of it now. Yeah.
Do you have any influences or idols locally growing up that you looked up to that played the game in your area?
Yeah, actually, my older brother, he grew up playing there, and he's one of my idols in every way, hockey as well. He went on to play trackers in Fort St. John in his third year, so he's somebody I've looked up to forever.
Now, you said it's pretty rural where you are, so once the hockey season is over, you just get the dirt bike out and and the water skis. Are you pretty recreational that way? Do you enjoy the outdoors?
Yeah, I do. There's not much for water skiing. The lake in Cecil Lake is pretty small, but yeah, I definitely love the country aspect of living out there.
So maybe talk about, women's hockey in general here. It's on the uptick with the registrations, with the with more people playing it across the country. Just maybe touch on some of your favorite women's hockey players growing up, and is there any one or two in particular that you try to pattern your game after?
Yeah, well, growing up, I mean, you hear Haley Wickenheiser's name all over, right? So she's somebody that I've always looked up to. And then Sarah Nurse, actually, I know they're both forwards, I think, but on and off the ice, I just really appreciate who they are and how they play the game. Defensively, I like to try and be like Renata Fast for the women's national team. She is very aggressive, and I appreciate that.
Do you kind of shoot for obviously wanting to play on, the national team or some semblance of thereof one day? Obviously, the tournaments are more televised now than maybe they were even 5-10 years ago. It would just be like kind of the senior team, and that's all you would see. Now you're kind of seeing, the U16, U18 World Women's Championships get televised now. Do you kind of see that as inspiring or a step forward, knowing that you can kind of see more of the future stars at a much earlier age?
Yeah, it's very inspirational. It's been my dream since I was a little girl to play for Team Canada. So I don't know if that opportunity will present itself, but if it did, it's great to see how much it's grown in popularity and how much more possible it is now for not even just myself, but many other young female athletes out there.
Do you have any favorite minor hockey memories at all?
Yeah, well, growing up in Cecil Lake and playing for that team, I mean, it was a team of me and my best friends, basically. So tons of memories on and off the ice, at outdoor rinks and everything. It was, there's lots.
Speaking of the outdoor rink, you had a chance to play outdoors in Fort St. James. I know we touched on that event a little bit earlier, but just maybe touch on what it meant to you to finally kind of play on that outdoor surface after, the weather wasn't so kind to you last year, and you had a chance to make up for it this year. And of course, you ended up winning the game.
Yeah, no, that was a cool experience, especially after last year. It was nice to be part of that small community, seeing all the fans come out and everything. That was great. And then, the weather was pretty nice. I actually liked the cold. It was nice.
What does it mean to you to kind of give back in a way and go to the schools and kind of get in touch with the kids and just kind of put a name to the face, as it were, and just kind of be a role model to them, even if it's just for an hour or two or even less than a day?
Yeah, no, that was awesome. That'll be one of my favorite memories probably for hockey for a while. It was pretty cool to see how much influence we have and what an inspiration the Northern Capitals can be to younger players. And to be a part of that and help encourage them was awesome.
Do you have a sense of pride in kind of being from the North? There's the longer road trips, huger distance between certain communities to get to where you're going for hockey. Do you feel like kind of living up here kind of toughens you up a little bit because you kind of have those added geographical challenges where an area like the Lower Mainland, every community is pretty close together?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd imagine it must be nice to live close to most of your away games, but no, it's pretty great being up here. We can bond on all the bus trips and everything, and definitely toughens you up, but it's awesome.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite road city or a favorite away rink that you play in?
I like going to Kelowna. I like the drive. It's really scenic and nice. And then it's also one of the shorter drives, even though it's still pretty long. And then, I like the rinks down there too, most of them. So.
Yeah. Do you have any pregame rituals or superstitions or a pregame meal that you have to have before every game?
Yeah, actually, my coaches bug me about this. We have our snack table out before every game, and our manager Kathy, thank goodness, she always buys these little applesauce tubes. They're called Go-Go Swedes, and I have one in between each period. Yeah.
You're talking about systems and differentiations, subtle intricacies between coaching staff. What's different in terms of the systems between Merced and Mario? Because I would imagine there's, maybe a little bit different terminology, maybe the way that they see the games a little bit different. What's maybe the one thing that maybe you've noticed a little bit?
In particular, the thing that stands out to me most is Merced. I find he really pushes offense a lot more than Mario did, in my opinion, which I think is great. But the systems that we do definitely, I think, reflect playing a more offensive game. Yeah.
Are you talking to any schools right now about, going to school and playing hockey at the next level, or are you kind of waiting to maybe try and do that a little bit more next year?
Yeah, I've had a little bit of action from U Sport. So Windsor reached out to me at our Vancouver showcase, I think before Christmas break. And then in Winnipeg, I got the chance to speak to Steve Cook of U of S, which was pretty awesome. And then otherwise, I've sent out some emails to NCAA, but they aren't able to talk to me until June 15th of my sophomore year, I believe. So we'll probably be pushing that more to next year when I'm able to speak to those schools, but a little bit so far. Without
giving too much away, what kind of questions does maybe a recruiter try and ask you? Because I'm underneath during interviews, after games, whether it's Spruce Kings or Cougars or whatever, and I see scouts hanging in and around, and the conversations are pretty private. You hear the odd thing, but from a player's perspective, what do they try and get out of you? What kind of questions they'd like to ask?
Actually, it was surprising to me because I was expecting to, hear about hockey and like how I play the game and stuff, but they're very interested in what kind of person you are and what you're looking for in not only schooling, but the university itself, the things you enjoy, and like if their school would be a good fit for you, if that makes sense.
Is there any like a specific field of study, or is there a certain profession you would like to get into if hockey doesn't quite take you as far as you'd like past post-secondary?
Yeah, so I don't know which profession exactly, but I'm looking into the health sciences in particular. I'm thinking maybe nurse or maybe veterinarian, something like that.
Well, we need quite a bit of those here where we are. There's definitely a shortage in both categories.
Yeah. Yeah.
What one thing about the women's game would you like to see either at the pro level, grassroots level? What would you like to see done better than maybe what it currently is? Because it's clear that, the registration's there, the interest there, the grassroots programs are there. What do you think it's going to take, as from a player's perspective like yourself, to kind of see it kind of stay on that upward incline?
Speaking of like a personal experience, I find the integrated hockey is phenomenal, but I find a lot of female hockey players, especially in their younger years, tend to play boys hockey. And I think it would help a lot if they could play girls hockey going all the way through, because I think that would add numbers and even more registrations and such, which would be really helpful.
Do you feel that, I know when I talked to Elle about this, because she played boys hockey after she was done figure skating there, talking about how much more physical the game was, playing at the boys level, and sometimes it can be a bit scary at times because you might be looked at as a bit of a target. So you feel it might make the game, a little bit safer, a little bit more of an easier adjustment if it was kind of that seamless transition all the way through the age groups then?
I think it could be beneficial. It definitely is awesome that the boys game, it is more aggressive. I've played boys hockey as well. But I find, like, especially coming from up north where the numbers were smaller, because the girls were playing boys hockey, there weren't enough for a girls team. So then, there is more issues in, I don't know if you call it issues. It's more difficult for female hockey players to play all the way through without that transition, if that makes sense.
Well, Staysha, thank you very much for joining on the podcast with me, and maybe we can speak again somewhere down the line.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Staysha.
All right, and that was Brendan's interview with Staysha Hiebert, defenseman for the Northern Capitals. Brendan, what are your thoughts on that interview?
Very well spoken, very outgoing. And Staysha, of course, has grown by leaps and bounds in her development during her 2 seasons with the Caps. Obviously, she has another year left with the program in terms of, based on her eligibility with the Northern Capitals. And just knowing that she's getting attention already from prestigious programs like down in Windsor there, University of Saskatchewan. I mean, these are very good quality programs that have women's hockey. And for her to already get that attention is a very good sign for the Cecil Lake product. I know the Caps have had a lot of scholarships over the past couple of seasons, as we've seen in the news and stuff that we've reported on through our social media channels. And we're hoping that Staysha is one of the next ones to follow in those footsteps with the Northern Capitals. Sticking with the Caps, before I transfer things back over to you, I want to congratulate Haley Armstrong and Maria Eyre with a gold medal in the Canada Winter Games in women's hockey for Team BC. So congratulations, Haley and Maria. Maria, of course, going to MacEwan University for next season in her post-secondary ventures. Haley Armstrong closing in on a scholarship. Nothing official yet, but should be something soon there for Haley. So congratulations, Haley and Maria, for picking up a gold medal for your province at the Canada Winter Games in Prince Edward Island.
Yeah, and just add a little bit more to that. Both Haley and Maria were very key players for that Northern Capitals team last year. And being able to see them come through the Northern Capitals program and the development steps that they took each season, and then to be able to get the honor to compete at the Canada Winter Games with Team BC and to get the gold medal, that's really cool to see, especially for two small town BC products at that.
Of course, Haley from Dawson Creek area, Maria Eyre from Fort St. John. So yeah, I echo that statement, and it's another check mark for the Caps program, knowing that those two players are enjoying success on a provincial/national stage.
Certainly. And with that, that concludes this week's episode of the Hockey North podcast. Thank you for tuning in to hear the interview we had with Staysha Hiebert and getting all the latest updates for your athletes from around the North. Have a great week. We'll see you here again next week.
I need to know.